Hello, everyone, and welcome to Even Breaks Supercharge Your Wellness webinar. We really appreciate you all joining us today. Before I introduce you to our fabulous panelist and expert, just a couple of little things. So first of all, we would like the session to be interactive. You are more than welcome to share your wellness stories or your challenges with us. So please feel free to get onto the chat box and do so. But we will also give you the opportunity to ask our expert questions through a formal Q&A session at the end. This is a live webinar, but it is recorded. However, it's just the panelists that are recorded and not you. So please don't worry about that. If you want to rewatch this webinar again, you're more than welcome to do so, and it will be made available on our fabulous Hive within the next 3 to 4 working days. The Hive is our careers hub. It's an on-site stacked full of really fabulous tools, information, articles, strategies to help you in your job search, and or if you're already in the world of work and searching for a new job. I would like to introduce Nicola Rothwell, who's our BSL interpreter, and also Judith, who is our closed captions writer. So thank you both for also joining us today. We really appreciate your support. And of course, we have the fabulous Toby, who's our executive producer, and he's managing everything in the background for us. So Toby, thank you again for your support. Just wanted to do a quick double check and make sure that our captions are on, etc. All good? Okay, so as I said, this is very interactive. We want you to share your stories so we can all learn from each other. There will be a survey at the very, very end, and we would really appreciate if you could let us know what your thoughts were on this session, and indeed if you've got any suggestions for further webinars. So let's get started, guys. It's January, it's 2022. And today we are talking about professional wellness and self-care. We're all really still navigating our way around this world of work, especially kind of in the middle of a pandemic still. Some may be searching for a new job, some may be changing jobs, some may be facing redundancy, or maybe you're wanting to upskill and you're starting a new course at university. All of this can cause us lots of excitement, but it can also cause us lots of anxiety and uncertainty, which can affect how we show up in the world of work, right? So coupled with that, having to look for work and readjust to different recruitment practices, being online, having to be more digital, what can we do to take control and supercharge our wellness and our professional self-care? What steps are you taking? What steps should we take to help us manage in these challenging times? Today, we're talking to Beth Hughes, who's helped people learn and work and be at their best despite the different circumstances that they face. Beth is a leading careers coach, holistic coach, facilitator, and trainer with the Education Trust. She's also an associate coach with Genius Within, where she coaches clients in their workplace who have neurodiverse conditions. And believe it or not, I don't know how she does it, she also works at Your Space, where she facilitates leaders and staff create collaborative teams to be at their best. Beth, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Thank you, Rosa. It's a pleasure to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I can, yes. So for 23 years, I've been working in the area of employability and careers, helping people, adults mainly, that are furthest away from the labour market, often with health conditions and disabilities and other barriers to work, find the career they want or get into work. I still do that part-time, and I'm a trainer and a coach now, training people to do those jobs. I also have a daughter who has a severe disability. She has Down syndrome and autism. I have a son who's dyslexic. So we're a very neurodiverse family. I've just found out I'm dyslexic and that I've possibly got ADHD myself. So we have lived experience as well as professional experience. And about 4 years ago, I was already coaching, but I started coaching neurodiverse clients in the workplace.
Wow, thank you very much for that. I do appreciate it. Now, Beth, I know based on what you've shared with us and your expertise over the last 23 years, that you know a thing or two about wellness and professional self-care, right? So can you share with us a story of a client that you worked with who was really positively impacted by making some tweaks or changes, or really, exploring their sense of professional self-care and wellness? What were they like before, and what did they do, and what were the impacts after they implemented some self-care strategies?
Yeah, it was a difficult one to think of this example because there's been quite a few, but I think the one where it was the simplest adjustments was a client that I had that came to see me who was anxious, having panic attacks, experiencing fatigue, lack of focus, depressed, couldn't sleep. So we looked at what was happening now, what his lifestyle was like, what they were doing in a day. And he noticed that he was eating a lot of sugary drinks, a lot of fatty food, a lot of caffeine, so Red Bulls instead of drinks, and coffee to keep him going. We used the model that I'm going to introduce later on to identify what might be making him anxious. And he realized that actually just by making some adjustments with these things, it might change things. So he made some adjustments. He got rid of the caffeine to start with. His anxiety dissipated, his sleep improved. And then from there, he realized he was still getting crashes. So he decided to do something about what he was eating. And he started having a breakfast in the morning instead of eating stuff out of the vending machine at work. He started bringing nuts and fruit to work instead of the sugary snacks he was having. He just made some subtle changes, but it started with the caffeine. And then all of a sudden, his anxiety reduced. He had no panic attacks. He had more energy, better concentration, raised mood. He was sleeping better. And that was all after 2 weeks. You're on mute, Rosa.
Sorry about that, guys. It's incredible, Beth, isn't it? Just the subtle changes that one can make to, other areas of their life, and how that can positively impact either they're searching for a job or whilst they're actually in a job, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it all came from him. So I'm not a nutritionist or a dietitian. I didn't know what was best for him. He just went away and did some research. I'm not sleeping and I'm drinking caffeine. What impact does it have? And through doing all this research, he just came up with something that worked for him.
Sure. Guys, what's your wellness strategy, or what challenges have you had? Can you please share that with us in the chat box? It's really important that we be interactive. So let us, share those stories with us. Toby, feel free to also interject and let us know what those stories are. Now, Beth, you and I have been chatting a little bit about wellness. We're passionate about it. I'm going to admit I'm not the best of taking care and looking after myself, in the workplace. I've got ADHD myself. Sometimes I get a hyper focus. I might not take my breaks, etc. I know it's something I've got to be better at. But, wellness is really everyone's responsibility, the individual and also the employer. And what I wanted to do here was to actually share with everyone a little bit about a 2021 CIPD's Health and Wellbeing at Work survey. They did a survey in partnership with Simply Health. And here's what the findings were. 3 out of 5 respondents reported that the company had a supportive framework to recruit, manage, and retain people with disability and who had a long or short-term health condition. Generally, approaches to supporting disabled employees were access to work. Not too sure if anyone's heard of that. Some of you might have. If you have, let us know. If you haven't, let us also know, because we're happy to share some information on that. But access to support services, which also included counselling or an occupational health coach or assessment, And a flexible and inclusive working culture was also really important. So how flexible and inclusive has your employer been, or what experiences have you had in that area? But here's also what Beth and I was discussing. Developing line manager knowledge and confidence is the most important challenge organizations face in managing people with a disability or long-term health condition. But guess what? Less than a third provide managers with training and guidance. That's a huge gap. What are your thoughts on that, Beth?
Well, I coach leaders, and quite often I've come across circumstances where they have been in a situation where they've had somebody who's disclosed a disability, hidden or otherwise, and they've genuinely not known what to do about it. And some workplaces are really good at putting the support in place, and some workplaces aren't. So.
So it's a big gap, and it's one that needs to be plugged. If there are any employers out there that have joined us today, and if you have any really solid wellbeing initiatives and programs, and indeed how you support and train your direct managers or line managers, whether it's through disability awareness or neurodiversity in the workplace, and please share with us. We'd like to know. Now, 2 out of 5 organizations collected some form of workplace disability data or narrative information, but yet very few publish their data externally. So those were the main sort of points that were coming out of this wellbeing survey in 2021. So the point here is that it's everyone's responsibility. It's the organization's responsibility. They've got to put in these really, really good wellbeing programs to help us be at our best and thrive. But number one responsibility is it really falls on us. We've got to take care of ourselves and set our boundaries. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to do a poll. Beth and I have come up with this little poll. Toby, if you wouldn't mind bringing it up, because what we want to do is we want to ask you some questions about how well you are looking after your own professional self-care or wellness. So here they are. Number 1, I feel emotionally strong and resilient. So right now, in your world of work or in your job search, or as we begin 2022, do you strongly agree with this or strongly disagree? Number 2, do you feel resilient and can bounce back after a disappointment or a problem? So think about your world of work. Maybe you've had some disappointments, or you're having some challenges or some problems, but how quickly can you bounce back and, and be resilient? There's a growth mindset. If anyone wants to Google that, it's a way of reframing and looking at how you see and view the world, especially your world of work. So do you strongly agree or disagree? Can you bounce back quickly? How flexible and adaptable are you to change in a positive way? And are you able to recognize and manage the things that cause you stress? That's a biggie, isn't it, Beth? We have to understand what's driving it. How do you feel about these questions? I mean, where are you on the 1 to 4 here? Beth?
Sorry.
Are you feeling emotionally strong and resilient right now?
Yeah, so I am now, but recently I had COVID, and my emotional resilience really took a hit when I was ill with that. So, illness can really change how you are on a day-to-day basis, can't you? And I think we need to be mindful of that, really, and have strategies in place for when we're not feeling at our best.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, often, we find that some candidates or clients may have conditions that impact their energy, like fibromyalgia, etc. And so this is something that we constantly have to refine and work at. In fact, it's our number 1 priority, right? We've got to take care of ourselves, understand our conditions, but know the supports that we can put in place. So please share with us if you do have conditions and what little simple strategies you put in place. Toby, if you don't mind sharing those insights with us as well. So here's the results. Beth, what do you think of this? 45% strongly agree. They feel emotionally strong and resilient. 55 are saying they disagree. What's driving this, guys? Why do you feel, what is driving you feeling emotionally strong and resilient? Is it because we're in a new year? Maybe you've put in the right sort of wellness strategies. Again, feel free to interact with us on chat. Okay, so in terms of I am resilient and can bounce back after a disappointment or problem, 55 strongly agree and 45 strongly disagree. So we're having similar percentages here, aren't we? So this is quite positive. I am flexible and adapt to change in a positive way. We've got 50% are strongly agreeing with this, and we have 50% strongly disagreeing. So it's 50-50. And I'm able to recognize and manage the things that cause me stress. 45 agree. Beth, 55 strongly disagree.
Yeah, and I'd say that that's pretty accurate with my experience of working with people, is that people find it much harder to identify the causes of stress than they do the other things. Yeah.
And you know what as well? It could be, sometimes I don't even know if I am in stress. It may take me a while to actually identify it. So it's about identifying and understanding what causes us stress as well. So guys, thank you very much for providing some further insights for us. And I think what we will do is, throughout this webinar, Beth is going to share with you some simple strategies to maybe even help you identify your stresses and how to manage them more effectively. So let's just get started. Beth, I have got a few more questions for you. Can you, given that the world of work has changed now with COVID, and it's impacted how we work, where we work, when we work, how can people help themselves to take care of themselves, either in their job search or if they're already in the world of work?
Well, whether you're searching for a job or you're in a job, I always say treat job searching like a job. So you plan your day, you set your goals, set your tasks, and then you tick those tasks off as you achieve them, so that you've got that sense of achievement for motivation. Taking regular breaks is really important, because nobody can sit, especially working from home. So when we're in the office, we're always getting distracted by things, and we're having natural breaks anyway. When you're working from home, you're not necessarily getting those distractions. So factor in regular breaks. And job searching is the same. It requires a lot of concentration, a lot of research skills. You're using your skills to the max, and often it's on a computer. So give yourself a break from the screen. I always say to people, it's up to you. You'll find your own optimum. But for me personally, it's every 25 minutes. Yeah. You're on mute. Rosa, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. This is definitely something I need to get better at. What about everyone else? Are you taking proper breaks? Are you timing your breaks? This is a really, really, really simple strategy, Beth. Thank you very much for that. Now, I would like you also to, share with us a little bit more about this new strategy that you have, that you want to share with us today. Can you step us through that, please?
Yes. So, Toby, if you could put the PowerPoint up, and if you could put it on slide 2. So this diagram on here is a metaphor for how the brain works. It's obviously not how the brain works. We don't have an inverted traffic light in our head, but it's just a metaphor for how the brain works. And what I want you to imagine is that within our brain, we've got 3 brains. We've got our green brain, which is our all systems a go brain. It's the part of the brain that's responsible for learning new things, working at our best, detecting patterns, making decisions, coming up with creative solutions. And for this brain to work at its best, all your psychological needs have to be met. Then at the bottom, we've got the red brain. Stop. This is the brain that keeps you alive. It's fight, flight, freeze. If you ever have experienced anxiety, it's this brain that's popping up and taking control and trying to work out, you know, what you need in that moment to usually survive. It's a survival instinct, is the red brain. So it's looking after, are you frightened? Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? And it will take over to keep you alive. But in modern times, we're not often in a life and death situation. So sometimes this brain just gets activated just because it knows that it should every now and again. So being able to keep this brain in check is really important. And the middle bit, the amber brain, it's the brain in between. So it's the brain that's recalibrating, and it's responsible for your emotional safety, your values, things that are really important to you. So if you're not feeling quite right, you might be in your amber brain. So if you're not feeling quite right, that's a key indication to think, right, okay, what do I need now to get in my green brain and be at my best, so I don't slip into red brain and go into fight, flight, or freeze. And Toby, if you could just do the next slide for me. So this traffic light model was designed by a colleague of mine, Catherine Daly, when she was referring to different states. And what we were going to get you to think about today is, what are the kind of things that get you into your green state? What might trigger you into amber when you're in a green state? What might help you out of amber towards green? And the triggers for you when you're in red, and what can help you get out of red. So by the demonstration that I'm going to do with Rosa today, we're going to show you how this works, and you can get all this documentation from Even Break. You're sharing this, aren't you, Rosa, so people can do this. And there is an exercise on there that you can do. So there are examples on there, and you can look at the examples and you can think, okay, so what are the different things that I need? And it will be different for different people.
This looks like a really simple and easy to use strategy, and it's quite reflective too, isn't it, Beth? And it's using that metaphor of the green, the red, and the amber traffic lights. I've got a question for you before we do a little live demo. Okay, so let's say I have a panic or have anxiety, right? Could it be that I might be misinterpreting body signs? So I might be thinking that I'm stressed, or, you know, I might be misinterpreting my body signs associated with fight or flight as signs of impending catastrophe. So it's really important to understand which light you're at, right? Because it can help you sort of circumvent or manage that anxiety or panic before it sort of moves into a whole different cycle. You know, so it allows us to, I suppose, it's a helpful technique to help us either not get stressed or to catastrophize, and therefore it can help us feel safer and implement relaxation or wellness strategies, right?
Yeah, so if we use my client as an example for, so we were working with this model, and when he was looking at some of the examples, he realized, oh, right, okay, so I don't have breakfast, you know, my sleep's not very good, you know, what am I eating? I don't even know what I'm eating. So he wrote out what he was eating, and just looking at those three things made him realize, oh, right, I wonder if this is why I'm in my red brain, which was why he was having, why he thought he was having panic attacks. And you don't know until you try it, you know, so it's get the basics in place first. Are you sleeping? Are you eating well? Are you drinking well? You know, are your basic needs being met? If they are, it might be a sign that it's something else, and that might be worth exploring further. But this is something we can do to just check out the basics and just make sure that we've got the basics in place.
Fantastic, Beth. I can feel a demo coming up.
Great. So Toby, I was just going to say, Toby, stop sharing. Thank you. Okay. Rosa, should we go through the demonstration now then?
And, yes, let's do the demonstration. And then obviously we have slides that we want to or we have handouts that we can put up, but they're also going to be available on the Hive. But Beth, I think we can just do, because of timing, maybe we just go straight into the demo.
Yeah, great. Okay. So, Rosa, what I want you to do is I want you to imagine a time recently when you were in your green brain and really at your best. And I want you to think about that for a moment and think about what that was like. And just think about, what you can remember happening just before you went in the green brain.
I was excited, a tingling feeling in my stomach. I felt like I was stepping into my power. I was just super, super excited to be involved and to be a part of a creative collaboration, because I have to use creativity in my daily life in order for me to be happy. And so any tasks, activities, collaborations, or partnerships, as long as I'm getting to use my creativity, I'm just feeling like I'm fully using my potential and all my great skills and talents. So I get a warm, fuzzy feeling in my gut, and I feel very, very, very confident, about the projects or the activities that are going to take place.
So you were in an activity where you were using your creativity and stepping into your power, and a fuzzy feeling in your stomach.
Yes. It's anticipation, I think, kind of excitement about, what's possible, what kind of collaborations we can move into. And I find that very energizing. I feel my energy levels just go up. So it's a physical feeling, it's an emotional feeling, and I'm smiling. That's when I know I'm green. I'm in green.
Great. So from the examples that are on the worksheet, what I'm inferring is that you're enjoying what you're doing.
Yes.
And that you're getting constant stimulation in a way that works really, really well for you, in an environment that works really well for you.
Yes, absolutely. It's vital for me.
Lovely. And now thinking about a time when you're in your red brain. So the feelings of fight, flight, freeze that you might associate with red brain, and just a recent, something that is in the past. What was that like? And can you remember what was happening just before you went into your red brain?
This is really interesting because I'm finding it difficult to swallow right now. Just thinking back to it, it's triggering me. It's incredible, actually. Again, I feel things physically in my gut. I felt in this situation a gut punch, nervousness, overwhelm, confusion, almost not being able to talk, shutting down, because it was unexpected. So it's definitely a physical sensation, and I'm Irish. I love to talk, and maybe there's some times where I might not be able to get words out.
So, and that was very visceral when I was watching you there, because you said, you're finding it really difficult to swallow straight away just by thinking about that.
Yeah.
And overwhelm and confusion and shutting down. And can you remember what happened just before you were in your red brain that might have tipped you? Without giving anything personal away.
Yeah, I think it's just a panic, a sense of doom and panic that something's not quite right, and I don't know what it is, and I need to get to the bottom of it. And so it's that unknown, that uncertainty, those sorts of feelings.
Yeah. And thank you for that. That's really useful. So you can see there the two extremes of the green brain when you're at your best and in flow, and then the red brain when you're literally finding it difficult to swallow. And then in between there's the amber brain, and many of us spend a lot of time in our amber brain. You know, we can quite often be working out how the world is for us. And you know, have you can you think of a time recently when you were in a situation where things just weren't quite right?
Yes, it's usually a situation where I might not know what to expect. I might feel like things are out of control. I need to know an agenda. I need to have a plan. So it's having an agenda, so I know what I'm working towards, or a goal, or a purpose. If it's unknown and uncertain, my brain goes into chaos because I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to, order the chaos. I don't know if that's an ADHD brain or what it is, but I'm constantly in problem solve mode, trying to fix something. And so if I don't have the information, or things are not clear or certain, then I'm working very, very hard to try and find a solution. And that can cognitively drain me. I can go into a drain because I'm spending quite a lot of energy neurologically to try and fix the crisis or solve the problem. So it's not that I can't deal with uncertainty. I thrive in it, but if I'm working on a project or I'm doing something, I need to have certainty. I need to have the information. I need to know what the structure is in order for me, or the role, in order for me to be able to be at my best.
So there's some things that you thrive in uncertainty, but there are some things that you need, and you know you need to be at your best. And having an agenda and having a plan and knowing what to expect is really important for you. And that gives you a certain amount of power, doesn't it, Rosa? Because you know those things are really important to you. So if you're going into a meeting and you don't get an agenda, you know that, well, I'm going to ask them for one, because if I don't get one, I'm not going to be at my best in the meeting. Or if you don't have a plan, you can make your own plan, can't you? So at least your side of things is covered.
Yeah, I mean, guys, I'm not a control freak. Seriously, I don't do controlism, but it takes me a while to process. So I like information in advance because it soothes me. It allows me to process, to think. Because I may need that time. Other times I'm very spontaneous and the ideas are flowing out of me. It actually needs to be harnessed, and that's what needs to be controlled. But sometimes it's, if I'm working with others, it's just certainty in what's being presented to me, so that I know how I can move forward.
So for you to be in green, you know you need a certain amount of certainty so that you can move forward and be at your best. And to get out of red, you did actually do the exercise. So when you looked at the exercise, was there anything that jumped out at you that you know you do in that moment to get out of that red brain?
I endeavour to listen, which might seem a bit strange, but if I don't understand something, I have to work really, really hard to try and understand it. So I may need clarification. I may seek additional information. I may take some time out to try and listen. And in that moment of listening, I'm trying to process everything that's going on. So it gives me a moment of pause, and to be able to try and calm down. Because sometimes I can find it challenging to regulate the emotion, and so that listening part, which isn't always effective, because sometimes I'm on the impulse to say something. I have to work really hard at doing that.
So you work really hard to listen and slow it down, and then that helps you be able to get yourself into a better state so that you can take the next step.
Exactly.
And what difference does it make to you now, knowing what you know about state, from doing this exercise that we've had?
I find this really powerful. This made me stop, like the stop sign, right? It made me stop and think and reflect and really slow down and try to understand the triggers. Because sometimes there's a pattern in that. There are certain things that will just trigger. And I find it very, very, very helpful, because it made me pay attention to current situations or future situations, because sometimes I'm just like speeding along and I'm not taking the time to pause. I love the reflection on this, and I love the fact that it actually revealed quite a lot of interesting things. And then I started to problem solve. I started to go, well, I need to do this, this, and this. So I started to write a plan of getting to bed earlier even, or maybe being a little bit more assertive in asking for agenda items or requesting for things to be bullet pointed, etc. And so I find it very empowering. I felt like I was taking control of things potentially in the future that could really impact me.
So it empowered you, allowed you to take control, allowed you to problem solve and reflect, and just that stopping and pausing was really helpful.
Yeah,
and
it's really important.
One of the things I would advise people to do is don't do this exercise when you're in your red brain. Don't wait until you're in your red brain, because when you are, you're not in the brain where you're going to be able to make those choices and understand what you really need in that moment. You know, you made a time for yourself, Rosa, didn't you, when you were in a green brain, so that you could really think about these answers fully. So,
yes,
great.
I'm conscious of time. We are going over slightly. If everyone is okay with that, maybe we can give another 5 minutes. Beth, I wanted to say thank you very much for sharing this really simple strategy. But what other strategies do you recommend that we can explore, consider? I know in the survey there was the access to work and understanding what it is and how it can help. But what other strategies or tips do you recommend?
Well, there's all sorts of things that can help you with whatever your triggers are. So if it's something to do with sleep, you know, there are apps where you can have sleep meditations and things like that. So it's working out what's right for you. Technology is amazing, isn't it? So there's so much technology out there that can help us with some of our strategies. There seems to be an app for everything. Obviously, within the workplace, access to work is the key thing. You know, most of the people that I coach in the workplace, they've usually been through an access to work assessment. So anybody who is planning on getting into work or is in work at the moment and hasn't had that, you know, seriously think about having that workplace needs assessment so that you can get the support adjustments that you need.
And this is great because access to work, you drive it yourself, folks. You put in the application and it's really no cost to the employer. Most, it might be up to 20%. You just let them know that this is what you're doing, and everything else you're supported with an advisor who will help assess your needs. There is a little bit of a delay at the moment with access to work, obviously with COVID, but there are other things too, like Beth said, the apps. What about coaches? What about wellbeing coaches, neurodiverse coaches, mental health coaches? Can they play a role?
Yeah, obviously that's my business, so I'm definitely going to say that coaching can definitely help. And the good thing about coaching is it comes from a position of personal empowerment. So we don't tell you what to do. You know, like the client who was experiencing anxiety, I didn't tell him what strategies he needed to do. He went away and did his own research and came back and formulated the strategies for himself. I just coached him through the process and helped him do that and gave him some knowledge about the state model that would help him give him something to anchor everything to. But there's other things as well, like some things that have worked really well for my clients have been accountability buddies. So when they've decided that they're going to change a habit, they might work with another person so that they can work with each other, so that they can keep in contact by WhatsApp or whatever your mode of communication is, you know, just to keep each other going and check in with each other and make sure you're doing what you're doing. I
love that idea. I think that's so important. I have a little accountability buddy called Tommy. Tommy often has to check in with me at 5 o'clock and say, have you left the building? Even though I'm working virtually. So I just want to say, love you, Tommy. Thank you so much. And she does it.
Great reminder.
She does it every day. I wish she didn't have to, but thank you, Tommy. Here's a couple of questions now. We're on to Q&A, folks. I'm conscious of time. This is from Harry. Harry, thank you. What is the best way to have self-love and confidence?
That's a big topic, is self-love and confidence. I think self-love starts with doing things for you, doesn't it? You know, so one of the things that I notice a lot of people don't do is they don't take time out for themselves. So I can't remember if that was part of the poll or not about people doing that. But you know, quite often people are busy with their lives. They might have families. They might have other caring commitments. And they don't necessarily take the time out they need to do things for them. Mm-hmm. And quite often you can't, you know, it's that oxygen thing when you're in a plane in an emergency, you need to take the oxygen first before you help other people, you know. So I think self-love starts with just doing things for you, to keep yourself well physically and mentally, and then you can help others.
This is from Lawrence. Lawrence, thank you for sending in this question. Do you think employers should help out as well if you need it?
Do I think employers should what, sorry?
Should help out as well. We kind of discussed that, didn't we? About
so I'm inferring what you mean by that, Lawrence, and feel free to put in the chat if I've got that wrong, is that, you know, they can be supporting you with this, and they all, you know, almost definitely. So, you know, some structures that don't allow for breaks, you know, is obviously not going to help people work at their best, especially when they're working from home, you know. So if people have been made to feel guilty for having breaks, then that's not a good place to be. So we know that flexible workplaces are the workplaces that are more likely to get the best out of people.
Thank you. Here's a couple of other shares from people in the chats. This is from Salma. Salma, thank you. As time has gone on since my diagnosis, slow living, simplifying life, and a more holistic approach to dealing with mental illness has helped and enabled me. Thank you for sharing that. Did you want to respond to that, Beth?
Yeah, sorry, I got distracted by Lawrence saying that was what I meant. So could you repeat that? Sorry, I can't do two things.
That's okay. It's okay, no problem. Let me just go back to it. I'll find it.
Getting distracted.
I've lost my track now. Sorry, just give me a little second and I'll find that for you. Okay. Yes, as time has gone on since my diagnosis, slow living, slowing things down, simplifying life, I really love this, and a more holistic approach to dealing with mental illness is what's helped me.
Yeah. If the pandemic taught us anything, it's that we were all going at 1,000,000 miles an hour before the pandemic, and the amount of people who said to me, oh my God, it's just so nice to stop. You know, and I think that that's part of it, isn't it? So, you know, slowing down is a great thing to do. And then by slowing down, you are able to start thinking about what you need, don't you? Because you've not got all this other stuff going on.
Exactly. Somebody else has said, my manager took 10 months to act on my reasonable adjustment and was asked if I was really dyslexic or just that I could or would not do the job. This has had a big impact on my well-being. That goes back to the survey where we were talking about awareness with line managers. I mean, they're not expected to know everything about every condition, but that comment could have been so soul destroying.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we cover in awareness training for neurodiversity is that not putting adjustments in place is direct discrimination. I'm not an employment lawyer, but I do know that. And that any kind of not understanding the disability and minimizing it in any way is also direct discrimination. You know, so an employer that does that has got to be very, very careful because they're on shaky ground.
Yeah. Here we also have D. Thank you very much for sharing. D stresses and emphasizes the importance of taking those regular breaks. It's what helps support her thrive in her world of work. D, thank you very much for sharing. And we have Charles. Charles has said you need to develop practice habits before you use them. It is very hard to learn new things when in a red brain zone. So yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Beth. Get the basics in place. Look at the competent skills that will help support you create and generate new habits, and focus on one new positive habit at a time. And your habits will feed into your routines. I think there's a whole thing about it takes up to 21 days to actually create and build the momentum around positive habits.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the length of time for habits, but I do know that absolutely one thing at a time is the thing that I would advocate for that, because you don't want to be overwhelmed by it. And it does need to get into your muscle memory, so this is why it's really important to just keep practicing these things on a daily basis, so that when you are in what you might feel at the time like a crisis situation, it's in your muscle memory, so you can just jump to it in an emergency.
Sure. So we've had a lot of people also make comments about getting those adjustments through access to work. It's so important, guys, knowing how to manage your conditioning and getting those adjustments. Please reach out and check out the Hive. We have a whole lot of sections on access to work. We talk about these in some of our articles. We have some apps and some strategies. We have a Wellbeing tab, and we also have a mental health tab on the Hive. Please go along there. You'll find lots of really, really cool pieces of information, etc. Beth, I'm going to give the last word to you.
Okay. So one of the things that I would suggest is that when you do work out what works well for you, is understand that things can change over time. So anybody who's got any health conditions or anything like that, you might need to adjust what you do. I'm just going to give you an experience about when I had COVID recently. All my strategies for helping me keep out of my red brain just went completely out of the window, because they all involved exercise, and I had fatigue. So I had to completely recalibrate where I was and what I needed to do to get into my red brain. So I would just suggest to everybody that if you do have health conditions, that means that things fluctuate, is that you might just have to be patient with yourself and realize that what works on one day might not work on the next, and you might have a backup plan for that.
Beth, this is fantastic tips and advice. We could go on all day. We have gone over slightly. I do apologize to everyone, but this is a really important webinar. Thank you all for your patience. Again, please check out the Hive, etc. Beth, were there any websites or anything else that you wanted to recommend at this stage, or you wanted to share before we sign off?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that if anybody's interested in the work that I do, me and a colleague of mine are going to be running a course all the way through 2020 called Better Conversations, and you can find out more about that on betterconversations.online. Thank
you, Beth. Now, this allows me to finish nicely by saying, check out our next webinar. It's coming up in a few weeks. How to recognize your workplace adjustments. We're going to have the CEO from Disability Rights join us to help us understand what your adjustment needs might be, how you might ask for them, when you might ask for them. Obviously, everyone gets to choose how they want to share their story, but this is also a great webinar that will also continue to help support and supercharge your wellness and well-being in your job search and or in the job. I wanted to say a very big thank you to everyone who's joined today. Our panelist, Beth, you've just been a superstar. Thank you. And also Nicola and Judith, thank you so much for your time. And obviously Toby doing all the background stuff, but mostly thank you to everyone else who's taken the time out to pay attention and watch this webinar today on supercharging your wellness. We hope that you have picked up some good strategies. It's specifically the one that Beth has mentioned, but please do pop along to the Hive, because we've got lots and lots of more information and support tools to help you self-care and manage your professional well-being throughout 2022. Thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.